Welcome to my instructional and informative video on the relevance of pitch frequencies and tuning for the sake of musical performance. I will explain some facts about physics and accurately demonstrate them so that we can understand why we are hearing what we hear when sounds are played. All human hearing is based on our ears analyzing sound waves from the environment in real time. We're able to contribute to the sound waves in the environment with speech, and our brains are able to analyze this very quickly so that we can verbally communicate with each other. Written and performed music pitches have been measured and applied to various notational systems so that music can be played by humans. The notes in music are based on harmonic frequencies. Frequency is the number of recurrences of a repeating event per unit of time. Lower and higher frequencies of musical notes eventually become inaudible at their extremes because human hearing is limited to the range of about 20 Hz to about 20,000 Hz. That's 20 kilohertz. For example, one of the most popular notes is middle C on the piano, which is designated as C4 and is measured to 261.62 Hz based on the A4 equals 440 Hz musical standard. What's the difference between pitch versus frequency? Among the same frequency, different waveforms are possible. When people define pitch, it is mostly a qualitative definition, while frequency is the objective part of the pitch. At a certain point, lower frequencies are more audible with more specified waveforms compared to higher frequencies. Technically, waveforms can be any shape, but here are a few to demonstrate. Sine waves look like curves on a graph. Square waves look like stair-steps. Sawtooth waves are more jagged. And triangle waves look like pyramids. Technically, these can be the same frequency, but they still sound different because they have different pitch. For expressing music, we mainly apply different sounds to communicate different ideas. Now I will demonstrate these frequencies with a tone generator. I have multiple tabs open on the same screen thanks to Firefox's Tile Tabs extension so that we may hear the different waveforms and frequencies. Let's hear the different waveforms at the frequency G1 equals 49 Hz. Sine waves sound smoother and don't have an edginess to them. Square wave doesn't sound as smooth and has an edgier quality to the sound. Sawtooth has more of an edge to the sound. Triangle is smoother than the other non-sine waves and also looks similar on a graph to the sine wave. Now we will emphasize the frequencies for G according to this chart at the lowest 3 octaves audible. Sine waves are the most common type that I hear in tone generators, but they don't produce enough sound on the lowest octave. At a certain point, lower frequencies are more audible when you use certain waveforms, whereas at higher frequencies, sine waves can easily be audible. So now we're going to try it at 24.5 Hz. And the sawtooth, you can hear it, but if we go to sine, the sine wave is not playing. To achieve sound on the lowest octave, changing the waveform makes the frequency more audible. My personal favorite sound is generated by the sawtooth waveform, which most closely matches the sound in my head that I aim for in music performance. So a difference in sound is established with different waveforms on the same frequency. But how would this affect multiple octaves with different waveforms? When I first heard even 2 low octaves with the sawtooth waveform, I had finally heard the sound I'd been looking for in the entirety of my musical studies for the first time in tune. When you increase this to the lowest 3 octaves on the sawtooth waveform, the result is an amazing new discovery for most people. When these lower octaves are amplified, you can actually hear an extra frequency increase and decrease over time as if it were being mapped out on a graph in real time. I call these overtone waves. This overtone wave is best heard when the lowest audible octave is amplified. Someone that is better at calculating harmonic frequencies in physics would be better suited to map out the overtone wave of sound as it traverses the octaves of the given pitch. You can hear an overtone wave go up in pitch first, reach a climax, and then actually lower in pitch gradually and metrically. This wave that we hear going lower in pitch over time will eventually hit its low point and start going back up in pitch. Perhaps the explanation for the inaudibleness of the overtone wave while it is going to the depths of lower octave range is that human hearing has a limit at around 20 Hz, even with sawtooth waveforms. Also, there is the issue of frequency amplification, where if higher frequencies are amplified, the lower frequencies are buried under the sound. They compete with each other. Certainly, overtone waves are heard most obviously when lower frequencies are amplified, but they exist regardless of the pitches being emphasized. It sounds like it goes past multiple octaves, yet it doesn't sound like a typical chromatic glissando. Now I'm going to play with these tones to practice harmonic tuning, trying to imagine and recreate the overtone waves on the instrument. Be sure to listen closely. It's very subtle if you've never heard it before. You'll usually hear this on electronically generated instruments, but also explains why low tuba notes sometimes sound like more than one note is played simultaneously. Different keys of instruments will affect the harmonies that are emphasized. You can tell this by playing the same note on different keyed instruments. They have different sound qualities, and even amongst different manufacturers, the sonority will sound more different, comparing different keyed tubas versus same keyed tubas. To try to demonstrate here the overtone waves without any drums. Basically, when you play into the instrument, there's the buzz, right? There's an extra buzz in the mouthpiece sometimes, especially on those lower notes. Those are the notes that you can easily do or practice these overtone waves, matching those and recreating those. So I'll just go ahead and demonstrate first on the F tuba. This bass tuba is keyed in F, so it also emphasizes those harmonies. When you play it on the contrabass C tuba, which I will bring out in a moment, it emphasizes C, the note C. So you'll hear a difference in the volume of the sound, not only because it's a bigger instrument, but also because the sonority, the quality is going to be different because it's in the key of C. So it still has to go through the same pipe. I ask myself, why do I like the tuba? For sure, the low notes and harmonies created with other low instruments is a big reason. But why is this different from any other instrument creating harmonies with other instruments, even low ones like the tuba? One thing that I consider important is that the majority of the world is probably a billion times less exposed to these lower frequencies and their natural overtone waves than I am, and have never even considered the importance of overtone waves from lower harmonies within tuning methodology. Think about this the next time you play your musical instrument. Now there is something to do while you hold out those long tones. A good way to pass the time while you're doing absolutely nothing or very little. What a waste of precious time. Furthermore, certain pitches/keys can evoke moods based on their harmonic frequency. Most people who read about Beethoven know about his justifications for writing pieces, such as his Eroica Symphony in E flat, in certain keys. Tuning does matter, and the calculated frequency you tune to is something that is objective and naturally occurs in the environment. You're not just tuning to another person in these studies. When a person tries to play a particular frequency, they are amplifying the harmonic frequency with their voice or instrument that already exists in our environment. When your performance demonstrates these overtone waves, you are emphasizing that there is a natural harmonic order to the notes you are playing. I will be releasing a new video that talks more about different tuning standards and why it is relevant even to the way overtone waves sound. When frequencies go into the terahertz range, colors are formed. That is a topic that is also beyond the scope of this video, but I have included a link in the video description because it is interesting to consider that along the entire spectrum of hertz that we can comprehend, we first go from hearing range, which is about 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, past Wi-Fi range, which is 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, and even to terahertz, where colors exist. This kind of tuning practice is normally not taught in music schools, but I guarantee you will hear overtone waves in even live performances with electronic instruments. Hopefully you've enjoyed this explanation. It's a different way of doing things from the norm.